All right, everybody, this is Sheets, and I'm going to be doing this solo today, just giving you kind of an early look at what rates to be the context of the NBA slate tonight. Hope you all had a good weekend. I did really, really well in all of the ancillary sports this weekend. I did very nicely in League of Legends, very well in tennis, and couldn't quite get much done in the football slate. But actually, in the two-gamer yesterday, on the NBA on FanDuel, got like fifth in the lottery over there for like $12.50 or something like that. So good for that. I'm very excited about the getting to like the second half of the NBA season here with the trade deadline passed. I'm hoping that there's a little less, post-lock volatility. But I can wish all I want, but that's going to be the reality of the NBA. So yeah. So as part of process, again, and people continue to ask me for that, and that's what I want to provide as well, is this is kind of like the early approach to the slate, right? It's going to be, it's still 5 hours before lock, at least, depending on when you're watching this. And I struggle with whether it's even worth it, to go on previewing the slate if the whole thing's going to change at 5:30 or 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern. But I do think it is important to get an overview of what the slate could look like or what it might look like, even if it is going to change somewhat as we get a little bit closer to lock. It helps process. It helps, that 30,000-foot view and all of that. So let's just get started. Well, how do you want to do this? You want to do this game by game, or you want to just take an overall view of the slate? Let's, for this particular one, do game by game. Because I'd like to, make sure to indicate, which games are later, which games are earlier, and things like that. But what we're going to do, let's have some fun. Let's start with the later games. That's something we could do differently. If we've been deciding that we want to kind of backload the late game as much as possible, hey, let's start with those to see if there's anything worth even waiting for. Now, again, we're speculating that that maybe things show up that we don't know about, which is another reason why you want to wait for the later games. But even presuming that nothing changed, it's still a little bit better to be in those late games. They don't get analyzed as much, and you have flexibility to change if you're so inclined. So the first thing I want to do is discuss this Golden State Clipper game. And on the Golden State side, nothing really shows up as a tremendous value. Slowly but surely, Steph Curry has been coming down in price a little bit. And it's been because he hasn't really performed in a way that an 11K guy is supposed to perform. So his projections are coming down a little bit. And I think it's relatively fair to indicate that he's just kind of a play. He's not really even a good play. Certainly not a great play. He's going to be low owned. You could always make the case that you could play Steph Curry just because he's low owned and he obviously still has a ceiling. But, I wouldn't chase this. I kind of would probably rather avoid Steph Curry. And nothing really else on Golden State kind of stands out. I mean, you have like marginal value in Looney, marginal value in Kuminga, but that's pretty much it. Where the value in this game is coming from is all over the Clipper side. I'm not exactly sure why all these guys are popping. I guess someone's just got to be out, right? It's Norman Powell's out, but are we really at the point now where him being out is going to just boost everybody up? Apparently, because that's what's happening in at least my early projection. So again, it's something to keep in mind as we get towards lock, that all of the guys I'm going to mention as at least the early look are extremely good values. I'm just going to list all of them for you. Reggie Jackson at 6K. I wonder what order to give these to you. Well, Zubac is really good. He's projecting about 6x, which is certainly nothing to sneeze at. You have Nicholas Batum, who is he's 3,600. I mean, he's projecting about 6x. You have Luke Kennard, small forward eligible. He's projecting 6x, and he's questionable. So if he's questionable, then it even bumps the other guys up if he's out. But if he plays, I'll go back to him. Then there's Mann and Marcus Morris. So let's put these guys in. Again, you're not going to play all these guys, but just to give you an idea of what's happening here. Mann 4,300, and where's Marcus Morris? 5,600. So all these guys are extremely cheap, and between them and another earlier game, that's where the majority of the value goes. And what's interesting is, again, this is the later game, and we get to the earlier game. Well, there are two games that with extreme value. I mean, you do want to backload these later games if possible. So I think these Clippers are going to be, the priority. Just make sure to have room for them. Especially if Luke Kennard is going to be out, or there's a chance that he's out, I would certainly, make sure to save some room, save room for dessert, so to speak. All right, Utah against Houston, really, really bad game. If you think the game can stay close and you can get a full run out of Utah, then Mitchell and Gobert, I presume he's playing, is rates to be good plays, but I hope Houston keeps this game close is asking a lot. And on the Houston side, Christian Wood, probably my favorite of the Houston guys, but even that's really not that great. So I think the Utah Houston game is something I want to kind of avoid. So you're looking at this Clipper game is like a full island game at 10:30. I would at least start with that. And we can go back to Curry now for a second, right? Where I said Curry wasn't such a great play, but if you're going to play 3 or 4 Clippers, it's probably a good idea to run it back, Curry. Although you don't have to, I think they're going to do their thing, regardless of whether Curry has a big game. So I don't know, but Curry's certainly more in play than he was if there were no value on the Clippers. Orlando and Denver. So Nicole Yokic, as usual, rates to be the best play on the slate, provided again that you get that minute ceiling out of him, because look, he can get there with only playing 3 quarters if they blow them out. I mean, he can get he can score 60 fantasy points at 3 quarters without worrying too much. Because remember, like if they do blow them out, it's going to be in decent part because Jokic has a good game, and also in part because Orlando has a bad game, but or their normal game. So whether Jokic can pop a 70 or an 80 is open for discussion. He's definitely a good cash game play. I don't know if it's 100% priority in GPPs, but he certainly rates to be the best play, at least from raw points. And Aaron Gordon looks okay, but I don't really play him. It's cool, little mini revenge against Orlando, but not worth getting in a huff about. On the Orlando side, if you want to play Jokic, I mean, you could certainly go ahead and try Cole Anthony at 7,100. He looks pretty reasonable. And then if you want to go do this, you can play double center. You can play Mo Bamba. I think actually Mo Bamba can give Jokic problems from an offensive perspective. In other words, Mo Bamba's not going to be able to stop him. But I don't think that Jokic is particularly interested in chasing Mo Bamba all over the court. Like if Mo Bamba wants to start taking threes. So I do like that a little bit. So we're moving backwards in time here. And next one is New Orleans, Toronto. And this is a game where, you'd think that there'd be a lot of great plays, but there really aren't. New Orleans, for example, I really don't have anybody projecting as such a great value over here. I mean, maybe not even like Valanciunas, Ingram. I mean, on DraftKings especially, none of these guys really look really good. And they're for the most part as healthy as they're going to be, and they're priced accordingly. So there's really no value over there. On the Toronto side, you can always go and play, Van Fleet and Siakam. I mean, they're going to get 100 minutes, and they always have a ceiling. And I know it might feel weird to play Siakam at 10-1, but if you're going to get 40 minutes out of him, I mean, I think it's worth considering. So between Van Vliet, Siakam, Curry, I think they all are very similar type plays. I'm also seeing that these guys are not going to be particularly high owned, which also makes them good plays as well. So I would say Siakam and Van Vliet, and really nobody from New Orleans. So right now, again, we're trying to keep track of the slate here, and it's still about these Clippers a little bit later. Portland, Milwaukee looks like a really easy game to handicap. You could certainly do a stack of this game. And because the plays for me are very, very clear, it would be Anthony Simons and Nurkic. And for Portland, and they don't look to be like smash plays, but they're good enough. And you can, obviously play Giannis on Milwaukee. I don't like anybody else in Milwaukee today. So if you want to do that, and here's a case where if Giannis is, if you really want to get those minutes you need out of Giannis, it's mandatory, I think, that Nurkic and Simons have really big games. I mean, you could even want a third. I mean, you could even say, Hart better get in there and have a good game also. So while I don't usually like to do this, if you want to stack this game, I really do think that you need at least 2 Portlands to go with Giannis, at least Simons and Nurkic, and maybe even 3. So that would be, I think that's a good GPP type strategy to play Giannis with at least 2 of those Portlands, maybe even that Josh Hart being a third. He's not projected to be all, as good of a play as those 2, but he's starting to get acclimated, new system. Maybe they'll give him, I already have him projected for 34 minutes. I don't know how much more they have to play, but I think it's totally reasonable. Right. San Antonio against Chicago. So you have DeRozan at 10-2, who's playing with no Levine tonight, and he's playing against San Antonio. I mean, I know it's not in San Antonio, but I mean, who cares? I mean, he's gonna go off, isn't he? I mean, he looks to be a really, really good, really elite play here at 10-2. So I would certainly try to get him in. And then you have others from Chicago, like Vooch is pretty good at center at 9,800. And then with Levine out, you have this value. And let's just go over who that is. You have Green out too, right? Is that the story? He's questionable. He might need a few days off. So that's why all these guys are going to pop. So Kobe White at 6K is going to look pretty good. You have Ayu Dosunmu at, they're making him a point guard, 5,900. He's pretty good. Derek Jones Jr. at 3K. He's projecting almost 6X. So all these guys look pretty good. I mean, with Levine and Green out, I think that all these guys are in play. So again, I have them very similar, if not a little bit worse though than the Clippers. So I would prefer to wait for the Clippers, but Chicago certainly is, these guys are all pretty reasonable. And then on the San Antonio side, I mean, this is what makes this whole thing work is you have DeJounte, you have 2 guys I'm interested in. I wish Bobby were around. I could talk to him about this. We'll get to it, I guess, in the live show. But Jonte Murray is 11K. And that seems just so ridiculous to have a Jonte Murray at 11K. But you know what? He's earned it. I mean, he's just totally earned it. Derek White's no longer there as well. And, every freaking game. He had 82 games ago. Are you kidding me? I mean, you give me a reason why he shouldn't be 11K and I won't play him. So, yeah, there's that. I like him. And then the other guy that I want to talk about is Zach Collins. So I played him the other day. And he only played 16 minutes. He only had 13 fantasy points. It wasn't really that, too inspiring. But, he's working his way back. He's very talented. And, while Podol's certainly the starter, I think that Collins is going to get some is going to get at least backup center minute run on a regular basis. So if you can get me up to 20 minutes from him, I mean, I'd be really happy with that at 3,100. So I want to talk to Bobby about that, about the Zach Collins idea, because I played him the other day and I thought he'd be huge chalk, and turns out nobody played him, and I guess everybody was right. So I got to think about this one. But he's the guy I'm looking at. Other guys on San Antonio are really nobody for me. Nobody rates to be a good play aside from the guys I mentioned. moving backwards, you have Oklahoma City and New York. So first of all, Oklahoma City, I really don't have too much here. Really nothing. What's interesting is on the New York side. So, we talked about this, going into the weekend, their guard situation, and as you look at them, Barrett's been out, Rose has been out. So it's between all these other guys. You have Alec Burks, Kemba Walker, Quickly, McBride, and you have what's his name, Quentin Grimes, right? So Quentin Grimes in the last 2 games, he put up 37 fantasy points. Well, excuse me, he played 37 minutes against Portland and 31 minutes against Golden State. And, if you're going to get him starting again, playing 30 minutes at 3K, I mean, he's projecting right now to be 8X. So that on the surface looks to be someone you really don't want to fade. And you look at it, he did score 20 real life points. So it's not as if he just scored fantasy points or whatever that the coaches don't see. He actually scored real life points. So those minutes might be in the offing. But I mean, let's just take a look at some of these other guards before we get completely sold on them. Well, first of all, Julius Randle remains a good play. I mean, with Barrett out, he's going to be back to playing 40 minutes. I mean, this is what you want. So he's a really, really strong play. But I just want to make sure this is not a mistake to play like 100% Quentin Grimes, which is probably what people are going to do here. What he's doing, he's competing with who? With Kemba and Alec Burks and Quickly for minutes, right? So let's see what happens. So Kemba in his last game, he played 26 minutes, scored 29 fantasy points. He had 23 real life points as well. So, I mean, I just have a question. I mean, is Quentin Grimes really that much better of a play than Kemba? I mean, yeah, sure. If he's going to get 37 minutes and Kemba's going to get 25, I mean, yeah, that makes sense. It says they took an ugly loss, so it looks as though maybe it was a blowout. So we probably have to drill down into the rotations a little bit more. But I don't think it's like a sure thing that Quentin Grimes gets a zillion minutes. I mean, he should, but then there's Alec Burks in that same game. He only played 21 minutes. But let me hold on. I want to grab the popcorn machine because I just have this feel. I mean, I didn't see it. Popcorn machine. I just want to see how bad of a blowout this was. So who is it? Knicks versus Port. Okay, so let's see game flow. So it doesn't say what the score. Oh, wait, 14-0. It looks like they get ran out of the building here. So it's Kemba started and Grimes started as well. So let's see what about. So it looks as though Grimes started, got his blow, came back in. So they were giving him full starters minutes. Okay, it wasn't just blowout run or anything like that. Because you look at alongside of Randle, he played the exact same sort of, you know what I mean? Like almost the exact same rotation as Randle and Fournier. Okay, and it's clear that Burks is coming off the bench, right? And it's clear that Quickly it was coming off the bench. Reddish is finally getting some run. But Kemba started alongside of Grimes. And he didn't play these last, few minutes of the third. I think Burks came in for him. Burks and Reddish came in for Fournier and Kemba. Okay. Where Grimes got to stay in the game. So I question, like, if Grimes were not doing as well, if Kemba was doing better, would they have brought him in for Grimes, those guys? I don't know, probably not. So, and then in the fourth quarter, you had Kemba coming in same time as Grimes did, but they pulled Kemba for Burks. So it looks as though that Burks is going to be coming in for Kemba, and Quentin Grimes looks to be the man. Okay. So yes, I do think Quentin Grimes, if you presume that the rotation is going to be the same, then I imagine it's going to be the same type of deal. So I would play Grimes. I still think that Kemba's got a chance. How does Kemba have a chance? How does he have a chance to play more minutes here? Because they want to play Burks, right? They don't want to not play Burks. And they don't want him to come in for Grimes, so he's just going to come in for Kemba. I mean, Kemba's not playing. The only thing I would say is if they felt as though Kemba were having a good game here, would they bring Burks in for somebody else, like maybe for Fournier? So I guess there is a chance that, let's see what is Kemba doing here. He had a missed three, a made free throw, a missed two, and a missed three. That's what he was doing in the fourth before he got taken away. He was 0 for 3 and 0 for 2 for 3. What was Grimes doing? So Grimes didn't do anything. Oh, he literally didn't do anything. He didn't take a shot in the fourth quarter. That's really interesting. He had 3 fouls and a defensive rebound. Who was shooting? So Randle had all the shots, right? And Fournier had some shots. Kemba had a couple, then they pulled him. And Burks, when he came in the game, I presume he missed 2, make 2. So this is interesting. So Quentin Grimes is not much for shooting. So over here in the third quarter is when he went off, right? In the third quarter, offensive rebound, he missed a free throw, made a 3, missed a 2, made a 3, made a 3. So he kind of went off in the third quarter. Took a couple of shots here. Second quarter, made it. So in the fourth quarter, he got a little shy. That's pretty much it. So yeah, I do like Quentin Grimes. And again, I just want to make sure before you lock somebody like that in, that you just do a little bit of drill down as to where this came from. And so, want to lock him in? Maybe. But I do think that the Kemba, boy, maybe Kemba's just a bad player. Maybe I don't want him. All right. So with all that said, Randle, good play. Grimes, great play. Kemba, I'm not sure. And then you have Mitch Robb, who is going to be okay. He rates to be okay, not great. You have Nerlens Noel, he's questionable. And if he comes back, then I don't want to really play Mitch Robb as much. That's the best I'll describe that. All right, moving back, Sacramento against Brooklyn. The new Brooklyn and sort of the new Sacramento. So on the Brooklyn side, you have 3 guys who are standing out, actually 4. You have, these are not the same guys that used to stand out, let's put it that way. So you have Kyrie out. So you have Patty Mills at 4,800. You have Seth Curry at small forward at 5,400. You have Andre Drummond at 5,500. That has to be a strong play. And then you have Bruce Brown, who you could play anywhere. And all 4 of these guys rate to be really good plays. So if you want to play all 4 of those, for example, what do you got in Sacramento? So in Sacramento, you have a couple of good plays. So you have Sabonis and you have Fox. So play Sabonis here, play Fox here. And now you got to think, so this is another this is a pretty strong stack, you know. The only thing that does, it doesn't let you play these Clippers or these Chicagos later. But it certainly is a good idea to play this stuff. Now, again, there's no Irving, no, obviously no Harden anymore, no Durant. So it's not the same Brooklyn. But they have all these guys rated to be really, really good values. And you want to consider stacking these guys. And then finally, like all the way back at the beginning, you have Detroit and Washington. And while there's really not a lot of Detroit, the best I could come up with is Marvin Bagley at 3,300. And actually, that's not so bad. Let's put him in there. Where all the value is coming out of Washington, and there's a lot of it, and again, it puts yourself in kind of a quandary here because you have all this other value later. Do you want to waste it by picking the Washingtons? I don't know. They all look really good. Like these, all the guys I'm going to mention are above 5.5x. Well, first of all, let's start with, like I said, a good player. So let's start with Kuzma. Okay. Kuzma is a really, really strong play. And then you have all these other value plays. You have Thomas Bryant. Then you have Raul Neto, 4,400. You have KCP. You have, what's his name? Kispert. What do you get him at? You have Kispert. He's really good, 5.5x. Even Ish Smith, 5.5x. You have Denny, Avdia. So herein lies the problem, right? Are any of these guys that huge that you are willing to play them now and give up on any of that other value that's going to come up later? It's hard. But all these guys look really, really good. So what we got to do is wait on news, see what we think could show up later, and then we have to prioritize. Whether it's the Washington value, is it that important to get to the Washington value, or would you prefer? Is it that important to get to the Brooklyn value? Because you're going to be missing out on the Chicago value, and you might be missing out on the Clipper value. So what I do think, at least the first look at the slate, is that all those games with let's analyze those games with the value from their stacking ability, from the stacking perspective. So this first one is less appealing to me, because none of these Detroit guys look to be like really, really good. So it's not a really great stack idea. Sacramento, Brooklyn, I like, because I could play Fox, I could play who's the other guy I had? And Sabonis. And you can make that stack with the Brooklyn guys work. So I do like that. Oklahoma City, New York. I mean, you have Grimes just kind of a standalone one-off, or Grimes and Randle, but there's nobody really good on the OKC side. So they take a little bit of a backseat, but they're both like really, really good plays. San Antonio, Chicago. I mean, this is a stack city game. You can go ahead and play not DeRozan. Let's start with Murray. And then all these Chicago guys that I mentioned, you can play DeRozan and then take your pick of those other Chicago values. So this is one of the stackable games with those values. Portland, Milwaukee is stackable because you could play, what's his name? Giannis alongside with, Nurkic and Simons. I don't like the Collins play though as part of the stack, because if anything, I don't think he's not going to close. He's not going to. I don't think he's got a lot of upside of his, maybe for 20 minutes. So he's just kind of like a value guy to kind of throw in. Like he's not going to put up a ceiling, I don't think. So maybe he's just not the greatest play, especially with this stack. Toronto, New Orleans. I mean, these guys are just not going to make it for me. I mean, they're both good plays, but they don't fit a stack. They don't. If they're not going to fit a stack, they're not really. They better be really, really strong plays. Denver, Orlando, Jokic, good play, but what else? Is it enough to run it back with Cole Anthony and Bamba? Maybe, but I don't know. Utah, Houston, probably the worst game. It's really not a stackable game because it doesn't rate to stay close. Mitchell, Gobert are both good but not great plays. And then you get to these Clippers later. I mean, what if what happened is You ended up, spending all your money earlier, whatever. And then someone else got ruled out or something, like Leonard got ruled out, and all these other guys just continue to pop. And then they're going to be really, really low owned. You want at least have some flexibility for these guys. So I also think that by the end, the Clippers I think they're going to be the lowest owned. I just do. Like right now, I'm looking at the Clipper ownership, and it's really early. They're already really not that highly owned. I mean, I got the closest thing I have is Luke Kennard at 19%. He's questionable. All these other guys are only 10%. So if I can get to, Batum or these other dudes, if I can get them rolling, run it back with a Curry. Who else can I run this back with? Curry and Looney or something like that. I mean, that whole idea is going to be really low, I think. So that's kind of like the way I'm looking at. That's the way I look at slates in general. Certainly the way I look at it early, just to kind of prepare ourselves for what we don't know to prepare ourselves for. If that makes sense. All right. In any case, I hope I gave you guys something to think about. Bobby and I are going to be there live at 6. I'm leaving at 6:40 though. Valentine's Day tonight. Do not blow. Do not forget. Do not fall into that trap of, the Valentine's Day trap where your girlfriend, wife, spouse, whatever you got, says, "Oh, you don't have to get me anything for Valentine's Day," and then you don't. That's just really just a beginner mistake. Just do it anyway. Just do it anyway. What's the worst that happens? All right, that'll do it. Good luck, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day, and we'll see you at 6.